talk about exactly what the Bill of Rights does. Does anybody here think that the Constitution gives rights to us? If you read the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson told us that our rights come from our Creator. And if our rights come from our Creator, then the government can't give us any rights. In fact, when the Bill of Rights was first discussed, and it was discussed by the anti-federalists, people that were afraid that if we created a federal government, that we would give up too much power to a central location. And the Federalists were, James Madison for one, were saying, no, that's not going to happen. We don't need a Bill of Rights. Because if we don't enumerate and we don't specifically give rights or authority to the federal government, they have none. And that's what Article 1, Section 8 is. So, but they gave in and they said, okay, well, we'll go ahead and our first Congress, we're going to present articles and send it out to the states and have the states ratify the ones that they decide they want to adopt. They sent 12 articles out to all the states. 10 of them were adopted, and we call those the Bill of Rights today. Those did not give us any rights. In fact, Article 1 says that Congress shall make no law. It doesn't say shall make no law except in this case or that case. So really and truly, Congress can't make a law telling you that you can't pray over here, or you do have to pray over here. There's no authority for it. Now, that doesn't mean the courts and the Congress doesn't overstep their bounds, but they do that constantly. And they can do that only if we allow it. Now, this is right here, the preamble of the Bill of Rights is something that you won't find it in this Constitution, this copy. This copy of the Constitution is put out by the government, the federal government. And it's a real nice copy. It's got a nice index in it. Jim DeMint signed it. But it doesn't have the preamble of the Bill of Rights. And if you read the preamble, it tells you the purpose of the Bill of Rights. It's real simple. The purpose of the Bill of Rights was that the conventions of a number of the states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. Therefore, the first 10 amendments are all restrictive or declaratory, which means the Second Amendment means that the federal government can't pass any laws having to do with our firearms. The states can. The states can restrict us if they want to. We, the people in the state of South Carolina, can tell our congressmen, or our legislatures here in the state of South Carolina, we don't want you restricting our rights. You know, we want to be able to protect ourselves and carry a firearm. It says, you know, when you go to Article 4, and it says the search. Congress said you have to have a warrant. You have to go in front of a judge and actually get a warrant specifically saying what you're looking for before you can go in a man's house. That was because the British were just coming into people's houses. The British soldiers were writing a letter to themselves and saying, okay, well, I've got the power. And you'd come to Carrie's house and say, I want to come search your house. Well, why? He said, well, I just want to do it. I can. The king sent me, I got a letter from the king. He says I can't.
While you're there, I'm okay with it.
And excuse me.
If you go clean it while you're there, I'm okay.
Well, yeah, but you know, most of the time they don't clean. They kind of break things up. But the point is that each one of the articles in the Bill of Rights are things that are restricted of the federal government. Those are things the federal government can't do. We've forgotten this. I had a discussion the other day with someone that was saying, well, the Constitution, you know, the Bill of Rights, they give us these rights. Well, that's absolutely in opposition to everything we believe if we believe the Declaration of Independence. And most of the articles, in fact, Article 9 and Article 10 were there. You look at it and you think, well, why did they have Article 9 and Article 10? Article 9 just basically saying the states, the people in the states are keeping their rights. Article 10 says, and Article 10 was very important. It basically says that anything that we didn't specifically give to the federal government as a power for them to have authority in this new nation, the state kept it for themselves. You can't encroach on us. If it's not in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, you can't legislate in that area. Now, have the courts agreed with that? No. Over the years, the courts have not agreed with that. The courts have changed it. But what's interesting is that maybe it takes until 1934 or 35 before the courts decide that the Commerce Clause enhances the power of the federal government. What happened? All those courts before that were wrong? You know, if I tell you that you're wearing a red jacket and I've got a gun, and I say, you're wearing a red jacket, right? And you say, yeah, I'm wearing a red jacket, because you're telling me I have to say I'm wearing, you're not wearing a red jacket, you're wearing a blue or a gray jacket. The truth is just basically the truth. Now, what is the courts have done, and we've allowed the courts, as Trey Gowdy was telling us, Christina Jeffrey was telling us earlier, the Congress does have the power to change the jurisdiction of the courts. And perhaps we should look at that. Because right now, for the courts to come out and tell us that a regulatory authority has the power to tell us what kind of light bulbs we have because Congress has passed it, the Congress passes laws. The courts then takes a look at this document and says, okay, let's see, does Congress have the power to pass out of that law? I can't find it anywhere. Trey Gowdy once told me correctly that the Congress doesn't have the authority to give foreign aid to other nations. He said, Artie, yeah, I looked in the Constitution and there's nowhere, Ron Paul is right, there's nowhere in the Constitution that allows us to give money to a foreign nation, except for humanitarian. And I thought, Mr. Gowdy, you had it right until you go, where in the Constitution does it say that we can give humanitarian aid? You can take it out of your pocket. Each one of you can take money out of your pocket and give it to whoever you want. We're a generous nation. We're a generous people. But to have our government take from the Treasury money and give it to someone else and say that we're generous is wrong. So you haven't booed me yet. I'm glad, Kerry.
You're doing a good job, Artie.
So anyway, pick up one of these if you don't have one, okay? For the youngsters, you get them free. We want you to take them to school with you, okay? You got one? Here you go. Let's get some out. Here you go. You got one yet? Okay. And read it. And you can go online nowadays. We got the internet. You got one? For the adults, they're $1 a piece, and Mary's collecting the money. But anyway, it's important that we understand, and now that we've got the internet, you all can go on there and you can research for yourself what I'm saying. You don't have to believe me. In fact, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to look up things for yourself and say, hey, let me see if that's true or not, and then research it. Don't just read the book, because what the founders said to us in this pamphlet, it's not very long, it doesn't take an hour to read, it takes 30 minutes maybe to read, but it's just words unless you understand what they were trying to say. So if you take a look at the Federalist Papers, they go into exactly what they were trying to do with the Constitution. You've got Madison, who wrote, it was published after he died. He didn't want it written until after he died, but it was published after. The notes, it talks about what the delegates of the Constitutional Convention were speaking about, what the purpose, why they decided to write it the way they did. It's in here. And, of course, the Anti-Federalist Papers tells you what the objections were. And the objections are encompassed right there. They said, okay, well, we'll try to understand your objections and try to fix it where you don't have that fear. Okay? But anyway, thank you all for coming out here today. Thank you for spending these few minutes and listening to me ramble. And I hope that you'll look up some of this stuff for yourselves and start understanding that the government doesn't give us any rights. Not one. We own it. We only allow the government to do certain things in the federal government, and that's enumerated here. State government's a little different. The state government has their constitutions, and we got to obey the state constitution. We can change that too. Thank you, folks. We got Dean Brown and Bill Conley will be speaking at another time here shortly. We'll have Madonna announce when they're going to start. Okay, and we'll get you all back again.